Well, I'm probably the only person in this who got to do this twice. I did it once sophomore year, which is also like a music-related one. So I'm kind of a little experienced in it, and I kind of know how boring this can be. And it can, some people will pretend to be very attentive, but secretly just falling asleep. Which is why I try to make this as interactive as possible. And to kick things off on that, ask you a question, but don't shout out the answer yet. The background of this presentation, do you think it's a greenish blue or a bluish green? Just keep the answer to yourself for now. All right. Okay, and don't just discuss it. We'll have a review session real quick. So my advanced study project is film scoring, and I kind of give the metaphor of like a film scoring person to be this painter who dips his brushes with sound. And for saying that, I'm kind of connecting sound with visual content, which I think is a key element in film scoring. Like I said, film scoring combines both visual and oral content. And unlike traditional music or like other forms of music where people usually write the song first and then goes on to make a music video or create some kind of PV or promotion video for it, the film scoring actually takes it backwards. Usually you will have the visual content ready first, or at least like the director would tell you what kind of scene they're scoring at, and then you'll have to kind of based on that to write on the music and kind of force. It kind of goes to bring out the emotions and the specific elements in the scenes. So there is no way to talk about film scoring without mentioning film. Film in itself is like this, my favorite form of visual content because it has so much to offer with its dynamics. It uses different forms of visual to create different kind of images, like the word here. Just like switching these fonts, it's already giving them all these characters, and you can kind of, well, it's not very clear already, but you can kind of see like how different fonts have these characters. And scoring on the other wise is kind of the same. It also helps to create kind of imagery in the audience mind, but in a different way. It gives it color. Take a look at these. The coloration is kind of different from just switching the fonts directly. It creates these differences, but it's more nuanced. It's more up to interpretation. And especially with these last three, the changes are subtle, but you can kind of already tell like there's different emotions behind each of these. And here I want to quote one of the greatest men ever, Edward McKinnis, who is the director of our jazz ensemble. He said less is more, which is, I think, a key point to film scoring. Because in the end of the day, film scoring, you're just an supporting element. You cannot oversee what the expectation is, and you cannot overrun what the character style are. You have to, you're just side character, basically. But important. Check my notes real quick. Alright. So before I jump into some of my projects, I kind of want to show you guys my mindset and my kind of steps to approach like a scoring project. First, I will try to analyze the visual content. And there are two key elements I'm looking at. It's setting and event. Setting is basically like what time and what location that the story is taking place, whether it's night, daytime, or it's like indoor or outdoor. That in itself is already containing a lot of information that you can use to create music. And then the event, what kind of event is going on? Is this like a love story, or is this like a very intense fight? And both of these can go on to create a distinct mood for the scene. And mood is what I think film scoring is really about. You're not telling a story by yourself. Like I said, you're a supporting character. You're trying to bring out that emotions and the mood of the scene and really emphasize it to kind of bring it to the audience. And here is another interactive piece real quick. I want you guys to visualize this indoor place, and it's at nighttime, and you're chasing an unknown person. This seems kind of generic to a film scene, but trust me, it'll turn out well. So I think, does anyone want to bring out what kind of mood they're in right now? Just like visualizing these three words, a bunch of words.
Right.
What was it?
Right.
Okay.
Scary.
Scary?
Tense.
Alright, that's kind of...
Frightening.
What?
Frightening.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Exhilarating.
Exhilarating. You guys really love shaking people. Okay. I think those are very good points. But do you guys all see that like just these three words all provoke like kind of darker tone? And although someone said exhilarating, I think it's still leaning more towards the darker side of the emotion spectrum. It's not like just cheerful and all out. So I think just like when the director tells you this scene, you can already like have the expectation of how the sound's going to be like. And here I'm going to use a clip from my freshman year film project called Reality. And this scene features Patrick Schools, and it's mainly Patrick Schools. So this scene is when I'll just give a quick background information about this scene. The film is about dreaming, and then Patrick in the scene, he's dreaming about, and he's having a reoccurring dream, and this time he dreams it again, and he tries to prevent something from happening. Let's hope this sound works.
No, wait, no. So where to go now? What the hell?
That's. Thank you. So, just a disclaimer, I didn't, that score wasn't an original score. Because it was like freshman year, I didn't know anything about music production back then. I picked this music, and I think it's good to talk about why I picked it, and how it kind of helps create this, to make this scene full. So the soundtrack I picked is called You're a Blank Book by Cyril Bowler. It's from a video game soundtrack, but that video game in itself is a movie, if you understand what I'm saying. The key element I was looking for in this scene is obviously like, it has to be intensive, and I was hoping that it would be percussive because there's a lot of like chasing, and then you see how I kind of filmed their running a lot, and I think percussive will really help like pinpoint that element. So I think these are the 5 elements that I see in this soundtrack. It's percussive, it's bass heavy, which kind of gives this night vibe. Because I'm going to do a quick demonstration. If it's like one chord and you play in the lower octave, it creates this darker, and you can almost visualize that the scene is darker. But if you play on a higher octave, it's like the sound is brighter, and that kind of provokes like this light feeling in your heart. I'll just do it. So it's one chord. This is like the middle range. If you play on the higher end, you can feel like even though it's the same sound, it's the same notes, but it's brighter. It has a lot of heart into it. But if you put it here, it's like almost straight up just becomes like a horror vibe. So just like putting in different frequencies is like already provoking different emotions. And the sound is also in a pretty high tempo. I cannot quite pinpoint how exact BPM of it, but with this kind of quick BPM, you can get into this. How should I put it? Like it's intensive, and it's also like you're in a hurry. Like this just helps to provoke that chasing element. And then the sound effects. I'm not sure if you guys can call on to it. It doesn't have a lot of melodics. It's more about bass, and you see you hear a little bit of high frequencies, which is doing like it's like a scratching noise. I can play it real quick. I can find it. What's the name? Yeah. Oh my bad. Yeah, you see, like it starts off with just this bass. Yeah, you can hear it now, like the high frequency is starting to pick up, but it's just like that little percussive sound. Here. And you hear that's like a little spacey kind of piano. And all that is like is still going to the keyword I said less is more. It doesn't have a lot going on. It's all staying in the lower range, but it kind of it helps you to direct your attention to the images themselves. And then this song is in like a minor key, obviously, to like create this dark vibe. If it's in a major key, it could be different. Okay, so we talked about how setting an event kind of guides you into thinking of a mood on its own. And now I'll talk about like how exactly to create that kind of mood. So I talked about tempo. Having a low tempo gives this laid back and relaxed vibe, and it can be used in any form of like daily routine events. And tempo sometimes can also be used backwardly, which I will showcase in the very last clip, where the audience are expecting to see a high tempo sing, but you kind of want to contrast that with a lower tempo music in the background, but actually something very intense happening in the foreground. And intensity. By intensity, you can basically interpret this as loudness, like how a single note is played. Can also provoke different mood and emotions. I'll demonstrate real quick.
Let's do that chord. If you play like this softly, it's like this. It's already emotion itself, and it's probably sounds like a love story. But if you play it with more energy, the vibe completely changes.
It's no longer like I'm telling you a story. Like I'm slowly revealing. It becomes like I'm straight at your face. Like whatever it is I want to tell you, I'm like pounding this at your face. And then instrumentation. This is like arrangement. How, so like with the sound, you can have the melody and the chords, but you put on different things like the drums, the bass, and other accompanying music instruments to kind of create like this full set of score. And by doing instrumentation differently, you can really create just completely different song with like this, even it's the same chords and melodies, which I will demonstrate later with one clip. And then also I will be identifying specific moments in the scene itself. Is there like a point where the emotion of the scene completely changes, or is there like a moment that I really want to emphasize? Why do I keep saying that? Emphasize on. Yeah. And then the last bit of approach I take is that I see some pieces as more compositionally heavy, where I'll put more time onto thinking how the whole progression of the chords and the emotion goes, and how the melodies should contrast with the not contrast. What I'm trying to say. The melodies should how the melodies should flow, how the melodies should contrast with the bass. And if you guys, how many guys were at the first presentation? Who has teamed up with their first presentation? Okay. I think this is like a very good transition. Like this is just like a very good setup because Tina talked about how music kind of like the flow of Mozart music kind of creates this kind of provokes different brain activity in human, kind of helps to cure some of the mental diseases. When I'm composing, I kind of see how this music kind of provokes something that's in your heart. Like I just think this ties in very well. And the other kind of pieces I kind of see as texture heavy, where like the sound I just showed, you don't really need a lot of melodic things going on. It's more about creating this sound field and how the entire sound should feel like the effects you put on it, the sound field, how wide and how reverberant the whole sound should be, and how you design each sound. So that music I showed, it has a lot of things. It does have a lot of things inside of it, but you can see how he chooses the bass. The bass was not like an electro one instead of like a acoustic one. And then the drums, he didn't really put like an acoustic drum on it, and he didn't put like a straight beat. It's just like that hi-hat that comes in once in a while that gives like a little ta-da. I think here is one more. Sorry, I forgot which piece this is. 1 second. Okay. So this piece is from my junior year's video production. I retake video production my junior year again. In this film, I feel like I should talk a little bit about the setting of it because it's kind of hard to interpret it. The idea of this film comes from a Chinese Instagram website I saw. It's talking about this imaginary facility where everything you didn't get a chance to say gets stored there, and the people there will kind of decide whether they will make you say it out again. For example, if some of you are thinking, "Oh, this guy's presentation is so boring, I'm gonna get out of here," but for whatever reason, you choose to hold that to yourself, and then that message kind of gets sent into that facility, and people there will kind of maybe they'll make you say it. So yeah, and then this scene is like a security breach scene where the two employees there just found out that there's like an unknown personnel going through the content. I hope I'm right. Never mind, I'm wrong. Scratch that. Okay, never mind. Since I said that already, I'll show this clip first.
Jake, go back to your office and check your classes. Alright, I understand. I'll let you know if anything's different. Okay. Wait, Jake, about the thing you said earlier. Don't go that far into your girl's business. You may be in trouble or fired. Just don't, we don't have time. Go.
Hey, put this game, there's one swear word in this.
Who are you? Shit. Back here!
So that scene right there, you can see I kind of took on a similar approach from the song I showed earlier, where it's still bass heavy, but with just a little bit of tinkering high frequencies to kind of give this air candies to the audience. And I won't be going in detail like how I make this one because this is like I made this last year. What I want to show is like how like I said earlier, with different instrumentation. With different instrumentation, you can create just completely. You can use the same chord progression, all that, but you can create like a completely different soundtrack. I made a little edit to the editing, and I want you. So that scene was like apparently Patrick catching James, but I want you to switch your mindset a little bit here. Imagine it's the protagonist becomes James himself, and think of it as him escaping from Patrick. Three, two, one, go.
Hey, who are you? Shit.
So you can see like the chord progression is the same, but I switched the entire instrumentation from a more tech heavy to like acoustic ones. And at the end, where I put in this high strings, it kind of creates this hopeful feeling. It almost makes the audience think that like they should feel happy about James' escape, which they should in the story. So I want to go back to this little clip I skipped. So this is like that is kind of showing like how composition can change the soundtrack. And here I want to talk about texture, and I guess comes in at the same time, where just one chord. Think of it a note. Like if you think about A has like different kind of chord qualities. It has major, minor, augmented, and then diminished. With just one note, you can create like emotions just by itself. I'll show you real quick.
The major chord sounds like that. It's like hopeful, and then if you change the minor, it just starting to get a little darker. But if you change it to diminish,
Like that just gives like a sinister feeling to it. And here, in this clip, I'll show you how, with that one chord, I kind of take on a toll of like just manipulating different emotions. And this, I didn't make the film of this. This was Scott's project 2 years ago, I'm gonna say, featuring 2 graduate seniors. I won't make any comments on the story itself, but you guys can hear how, like especially at that dance scene, where the melody stays the same throughout the thing, but in the middle, as we see the character's face kind of expression kind of changes by switching to a minor sound, like here. And also at the very end, where we're seeing this picture kind of panning out, the high keys, like in the background, is in the major key, but just with that very dark bass at the end, it's just not giving out this light vibe. And sometimes that's when I call it contrast, though. Even though it's playing this almost cheery melody on top, but the whole thing is kind of dark vibe, which just gives it more like this frightening and almost like psychologically scary vibe. I'm gonna check real quick if this is okay. And this clip right here, it's also from my original film called The Unspoken, which is like that facility that makes you say things. This is when the characters are confronting their first confrontation with the final boss.
You lied to Avalon. You did. Yes, indeed. It takes me some time to diagnose what's up with you, Avalon. But also, I have to say, you surely take your time, didn't you? Look, Avalon, you don't understand emotions like we do. You just let Ozzy distribute his content, and then do whatever you want with him afterwards. Look at all of you, and so overwhelmed my emotions. You know how chaotic the world will be if anyone just distribute whatever they want to distribute?
Babylon. Sometimes exceptions need to be made.
My algorithm is defined and accurate. That's why the world remains on track and will stay relatively peaceful. On the other hand, forgive me if I don't see any reliability in human instinct and reaction.
Yo, I don't think your goddamn algorithm works. I couldn't say my own mom.
We've talked about this so many times already. A single death of human cannot be compared to the greater purpose of this deployment.
Are you serious? What's the point then? None of it's real.
I don't want to repeat myself anymore. And now it's time to finish unfinished business.
Is he dead? Like, is he out of function permanently?
I don't know, it's just part of the distribution. All the contents are gone.
Did you purge him already? I don't think he could have done that quickly. We should check the terminal's archive and distribute from there. He probably moved it to the archives. Let's go!
And here it's like similar to the first piece where I'm leaving a lot of the space in the sound for the character dialogue so that like the sound doesn't overwhelm the scene. And then FYI, if you're wondering, in the story, Johnny is actually an AI that runs the whole facility. That's why Hunter asked like if is he dead or is he just like out of function. And then in this next clip, because I'm kind of running out of time, I'm gonna skip this next clip and go right here. Sorry. So these last two clips are like the ones I worked. I kind of scored these other films clips, and the first one comes from Whiplash, which is a breakup scene. I want to break down how I kind of use the compositional progression to like kind of emphasize on the changing attitude and relationship between the two.
I don't think we should be together. And I've thought about it a lot, and this is what's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to keep pursuing what I'm pursuing. And because I'm doing that, it's going to take up more and more of my time, and I'm not going to be able to spend so much time with you. And then when I do spend time with you, I'm going to be thinking about drumming. I'm going to be thinking about jazz music and my charts and all that. And because of that, you're going to start to resent me. And you're going to tell me to ease up on the drumming, spend more time with you because you're not feeling important. And I'm not going to be able to do that. And really, I'm just going to start to resent you for even asking me to stop drumming. And we're just going to start to hate each other. And it's going to get it's going to be ugly. And so for those reasons, I'd rather just, break it off clean. Because I want to be great.
And you're not.
I want to be one of the greats.
And I would stop you from doing that.
Yeah.
You know I would stop you from doing that. You know that for a fact.
Yes.
And I barely see you anyway. And when I did see you, you treat me like shit because I'm just some girl who doesn't know what she wants, and you have a path, and you're going to be great, and I'm going to be forgotten, and therefore you won't be able to give me the time of day because you have bigger things to pursue.
That's exactly my point.
What the fuck's wrong with you? You're right, we should not be dating.
It's a pretty cringe thing, but I'll break this down. So at the start, I do this piano octave at the very end, and then to kind of kicks out this because in the story, the girl didn't really know this was coming, so I kind of want to emphasize that surprise element in a bad way. And then also a very a place I want to emphasize is right here. Like this pause with like this silent. It's kind of you can see like in the image it goes like processing this, which is why I kind of leave that blank space in it. And then as he starts to look up, like the music picks back up.
because I'm gonna be.
And here you can see the boy is throwing out his reasons, which is when you hear this piano climbs up, and then when the girl reacts to it, the piano climbs down. If you can catch that,
I want to be.
he throws another reason, and now she asks a question, which is why the piano goes up again.
You know I would stop you from doing that. You know that for a fact.
Which is like just some minor details that kind of helps to fuse in with the scene a little bit better. And then when he starts to kind of, I think she starts to rage, I'm gonna call that, the strings picks it back up and starts out with stronger intensity.
And I barely see you anyway. And when I did see you,
And then that was like a very compositional heavy one. And the last thing is a textual one, which comes from the movie Split. Have anyone seen it? Okay. This is the scene when the psychopath first broke into the car. The original scene is like completely silent, with only the what was it called? The radio playing in the car. And I left that in it. Because I think that would create a very strong contrast. And I put a little bit like space in the front too, so that you get a full setting of the
Wow,
scene.
I got more gifts than I thought I did.
Yeah. Thank you. Get out.
What? This is the one who's so funny. He just sleep. See? That's so weird. Yeah, you would catch it. What was it? Why didn't you get it? I just don't know. You know, his eyebrow. Eyebrows a bit. Yeah. Genius. Hey, pardon me, sir. I think you have the wrong car.
So there are a few elements I want to talk about. First is obviously with this starting, we can hear that piano sound just like have a steady pulse to it. Here. I think this kind of creates this imminent thing, and you kind of see something that's coming. And also with the contrast element I talked about earlier, the two girls in the back laughing at like over this kind of sinister feeling music. It's just I love this. And then when she realizes that something goes wrong, these high elements kind of squeakly sound. That kind of depicts the frightening feeling. And I left this blank here just because I think it would be funny for the soundtrack to suddenly drops out and only the radio, like this kind of, I don't even know what genre this is, but like just this radio music playing. I think it would be funny with this contrast. And also gives more power to this sudden impact right here. It's almost like he's getting ready, and like now it's like taking it. And right here, when the sound suddenly kicks in. It's like I think the reason I did this is that the girl was in this like hesitant mindset, like whether she should like sing bolted or what, and now that sound kind of pulls both the psychopath and her back to this like reality, which is why I think it's important to just leave that here. And yeah, that concludes the whole thing. We have 10 minutes left for questions. Oh, yeah, and now here's the grand reveal. How many of you guys think this was the bluish green? Bluish green? Okay, I'm one of you guys. Wait, so if all the others think this is greenish blue. Oh my god. So the reason I asked this is because in film scoring, it's like I said, scoring is really up to interpretation. And how you interpret the scene and how you feel the scene should play out is completely up to the director and the person scoring it. So I'm just saying, like, the painter has the full capacity and the full control of what he paints, and I just think that's really interesting. Oh, and I'm glad that we have like a almost 50-50 split, because when I asked, the first two person that I asked, they all say this is like bluish green. It's just, so, question? Yeah. I will. So my planned major is like music technology and computer music. Yeah. My favorite type of scenes to score. It depends on how I'm feeling, but just generally speaking, I like to score more intense scenes, like a fight or a chase scene, just because I think it's one of my quirks that when I score, I like to go full out. I don't want to, so when I'm scoring like a more romantic or emotional scene, I kind of have to like sit down and kind of contemplate a little bit almost. And whenever I'm music, I want to just like follow whatever my brain takes me and just like go with the flow. Yeah.
Quick question: in this exact same spot, and Dan was giving his
Yeah.
presentation about filming, and he's that was his film school undergrad. I would love to see a collaboration.
Collaboration.
Throw that out there.
From what I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, but I heard rumors that Chan's gonna come back and work here probably, which well, don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. But maybe depends on how well it pays. But all things aside, I do love like collaboration with like filmmakers, especially like from when I worked with Scott. Like just like having to go around the set with him and like talking through the music with him is like really fun. Any other?
Do you like playing songs on the piano or like doing it for film?
What do you mean? Yeah. What else do you use the piano for? But can you clarify the question? I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Can you rephrase the question? Would I rather like just play like perform or like do this? Is that?
Like, do you enjoy playing like a song or
Uh,
create music?
So for piano, I don't really consider myself to be a pianist. And when I use the piano, it's mainly for finding chords and melodies. But I do use the guitar more often to just play songs and to jam out. Oh, sorry.
You play a song on the piano real quick?
Can I play a song on the piano real
Yeah,
quick?
a song.
I can, but like, I have to think of a good tune for it.
Super.
What?
Play anything.
Play anything? I can play you a song that you guys heard when you guys were walking in. It was an original piece.
Yeah.
This is going to be a kind of spoiler, but not quite, to the upcoming jazz. Oh, yeah. What things inspire me? Dreams mostly. I actually composed 2 of my most recent songs just from stories I dreamed about. One of them involving jumping out of a building, which don't worry. But otherwise, what I feel inspirational the most is that like when I'm sitting out, like in this weather, where I can just like sit out in the nature and really I'm not quoting this from anyone. It's just like I think it's cool to say this, but it's really how it works. Like when you're actually hearing the wind and like just birds scorching, it really helps you to getting into a certain vibe and creates music. Yeah, I'm not getting philosophical anymore.
I was going to ask you playing on the song. You know any like anything?
I'll link my SoundCloud somewhere so you can go listen.
One more.
I'll play one more when you guys are all moving out. If that works. Yeah.
Where are you going to school?
Okay, I actually thought about asking Tina this in the earlier session, but I haven't decided quite yet. But I'm deciding between UC Berkeley and Johns Hopkins. I guess. Oh, wait, is that no? I guess that's it.
One more.
I think. Oh, my bad. Oh, sorry. What's the first thing? What's the first thing that crossed my mind when I write music? I don't know. I just put okay. This is not very good sounding, but I feel more and more lazy these days. That I just don't want to make music, and the first thing I would do is just force myself to put my hands on the piano, and then usually when I really try to make music, I would try to work with someone else. Or like recently, I found this software called Vocaloid where you can make things besides human voice on a computer, and that just like that opens up the world for me. Like when I was making music earlier, I was just making just like BGM, like background music. But now I can actually make melodies and make like the computer sing it, which like just gives it another excitement to you. Yeah. That's it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.